Mr. Stetz here. I hope you can hear me, and I hope this video comes out good. This video has to do with tonight's homework, which is basically just adding and subtracting fractions and whole numbers and mixed numbers together. And I'm going to do this one, number 2, for you in this video. And it says 3, which is a whole number, minus 1 1/4, which is a mixed number. Before we start this one, we want to review what a mixed number is. It's a whole number plus a fraction piece. That's really what it is. And when you have a whole number, you can make it a fraction by simply putting it over 1. And that will help you see the problem a little bit better. Now to subtract it, I usually rewrite it over here somewhere where I can actually work in my workspace. I don't want to cram it all in here. That's going to make it confusing for me. So I'm going to set up this subtraction problem like I normally would, where I put the larger value on top so I can subtract from it. Now a lot of students will look at a problem like this and say, oh, that's easy. 3 minus 1, that equals 2, and I'll just bring down this 1/4. But I can tell them to check their work by adding their answer, 2 1/4, to this number, 1 1/4. And when they add these two together, they should get 3. What do I mean by that? Well, I mean when you subtract two whole numbers, it's this simple. 4 minus 2 equals 2. Well, to check it, I would just add backwards. The answer, I think, is 2 plus 2 should equal 4. And if you check your work, which is subtraction, the same way, you can check it the same way, but it won't equal 3. 2 plus 1 is 3, and then 1/4 plus 1/4 is 2/4, or 3 1/2. So whatever way we subtracted here is not correct. So I'm going to redo it over here so it's a little less confusing. That's going to be wrong. 3 minus 1 1/4. Sorry, I made that 1 a little sloppy, but you see it's a 1. So what we're going to have to do is realize that we really have 0/4 here. There's really no fraction piece. But since we're working with fourths, I'm going to add a fraction piece to this mixed number, so now it looks like something I can subtract. But then we run into that problem where we have 0/4 here and 1/4 here. We cannot subtract 1 from 0. So we're going to have to borrow. We're going to have to make this 0 bigger than 1 so that we can subtract. And we're not going to change the value of this at all. We're really just going to borrow. All right? So there's really 2 ways we can do this. The first way is pretty easy, but it could be hard to understand. We're going to look at 3 and 0/4, and we're going to borrow from the 3 here. And how many wholes do we have? We have 3 wholes. 1 plus 2 plus 3. Okay? So each whole is 4/4, because we're working with fourths here. Each whole I want you to think of as 4/4. So if we borrow one of these wholes, we're going to cross this 3 out, and it's going to be reduced to 2. It's going to be 2. But where does the rest of it go? Well, we're going to take this 4/4, and we're basically going to add it to the 0/4. So the 0/4 plus 4/4, well, that's going to equal 2 4/4. So I'm going to rewrite it down here so it's a little more clear. So now instead of 3 and 0/4, we actually have 2 4/4 minus 1 1/4. Now we can subtract. So 4 minus 1 is 3. We're not going to subtract the denominators. We're going to keep that the same. And then 2 minus 1 is easy. 1 3/4. Okay, if I check my answer, I'm going to add 1 3/4 to 1 1/4. And that will add up to 3. Or it will add up to 2 4/4, which is the same. This is the same as 3. All right, another way to do it, which should work. Imagine we're stuck with this problem again. Some students like this method better than borrowing a whole. Sometimes this is confusing to students. But once you realize this, it's actually pretty simple. Another way to do it, which could be easier, is we're going to multiply the denominator times the whole number. 4 times 3. We're going to add whatever's on top, which is 0. So we're going to basically change this fraction to 12 over 4. 4 times 3 is 12. 12 plus 0 is still 12. 12 goes on top. 4 stays the same. And we're going to do the same thing to this bottom fraction. 4, the denominator times the whole number 1 is 4. 4 times 1 is 4. Plus the 1 up here is 5. So all I did is rename this mixed number. I changed it into an improper fraction, or as they say, a fraction that is greater than 1. But now look at, I can subtract 12 minus 5. I know that's 7/4. Here I couldn't subtract because I can't take away 1 from nothing. So I had to basically borrow. And all I did was rewrite this fraction in a different form so I could subtract it, and it makes sense. And 7/4 is still equal to 1 3/4. Okay? So if you ever get a fraction like this, where the top number is bigger than the bottom number, it's called an improper fraction, or a fraction greater than 1. You can simply divide it out. And that's how I got 1 3/4. Well, let me do it over here. So if I get 7/4, I would just divide it out like this. I know 4 goes into 7 one time. 4 times 1 is 4. Now we subtract. 1 3/4. 1 3/4. Now 1 3/4 and 7/4 are equal to each other. So in tonight's homework, the answer for number 2 is you can have 7/4, or you can write it as 1 3/4. Either one is correct. But you see at number 1, I said that the answer cannot be left as a fraction greater than 1. I put that in there as a challenge. So in the first one, if you were to get an improper fraction like this, where the top number is bigger than the denominator, I want you to divide it out like this, so that you get a mixed number as an answer. That's all I mean by that. All right. For this one, guys, you're going to have to find a common denominator between 8, 12, and 16, and just add them together like you normally would. If you can add 2 fractions together, you can add 3. You can also add 2 together and then get that answer and add it to the final fraction. Either way you want to do it will work. All right. So I want you to practice that. The other ones are kind of challenging if it's new to you. But hopefully that helped you solve some of the ideas in number 2 tonight, which was pretty challenging if you think about it. But hopefully that cleared it up. Okay? If not, there's always tomorrow. We'll go over it and we'll get a little bit better. All right? Mr. Stets signing off. Thank you.